to KGW News at 5 o'clock on this Tuesday. I feel optimistic today and hopeful, and here's why. Although protests continue across the country reacting to the brutal and horrific death of George Floyd, many of them volatile and destructive, here in Oregon last night, it's estimated 15 to 20,000 people gathered in downtown Portland for a fourth night of protests. They expressed their outrage over Floyd's death and called for an end to police brutality and racism. They showed their solidarity. For several hours, it remained peaceful with just a small group of people who stayed behind, who caused trouble later. Today, there's a lot of praise for the way protesters policed themselves and kept the peace. You're looking at a die-in last night at about 7:30 on the Burnside Bridge. Mayor Wheeler said, "Here I am in the middle of a global pandemic, and I'm feeling this spark of incredible optimism. And we're at a tipping point towards something transformative and positive." He did not extend the citywide curfew tonight. He wrote later today in an open letter, "We need to hear and own difficult truths so we can build a better, more equitable Portland. Together, we will acknowledge Portland's history and write its future." Let's hold on to that hope for healing and promise and commitment to work for positive change and justice. Now, here's what's happening on this Tuesday, June 2nd. With no curfew in place tonight, Portland leaders are also optimistic protests will stay peaceful. This comes after city leaders met with protesters this morning, hoping to come to an understanding. Mike Benner joins us live at Pioneer Courthouse Square, where people have started gathering. Mike?
Well, tell you what, Laurel, this crowd has grown considerably since the 4 o'clock hour. Let me step out of the way and give you a live look here. I'd say there are several hundred people filling the square right now, many of them holding signs. They've been singing and giving speeches. I can tell you it is extremely peaceful, just like it was yesterday evening at this very same spot. Now, earlier today, we know that city leaders and their federal partners met with representatives from different protest groups, and they really aired out their grievances and concerns. And they all agreed that there needs to be more accountability and transparency and inclusion if we're going to make any progress at all. Take a listen to what else they're saying.
We can always look for the outside to help us, but we got to help from within. And to see today 7 black men in one situation to have just for clarity and solidarity, that was a beautiful thing. And to see that we had the mayor and and the Justice Department come out just to talk to us and get our side, that really shows a lot of open for change.
There should be a lot more safety and reassurance between the cops and the people, because that's who's out there on the streets. I think most people are scared right now with all that's going on. So I think poise is necessary. Control for our, self-control per se, for our own people is very much necessary.
All right, another live look at Pioneer Courthouse Square. Several hundred people gathered at this hour. Something to keep in mind if you plan to come downtown for any of the demonstrations tonight. There are several blocks of downtown Portland that have been roped off for the safety of everyone who is down here. Also worth mentioning, there are the westbound lanes of the Burnside Bridge have been closed for safety reasons as well. That needed to be done at the request of police. They said those lanes will reopen later tonight when everyone heads home. Laurel, let's send it back to you.
Mike Benner live at Pioneer Courthouse Square. Thank you, Mike. Let's go over those street closures again. They remain from yesterday, still in effect in downtown, from Southwest 1st to 5th, between Southwest Taylor and Jefferson. That's the area around the Justice Center and Courthouse where some protesters clashed with police over the weekend. Streets are blocked to both pedestrians and cars. A big part of the protest, both here and nationwide, is a call to end police brutality, which made us wonder how things are going in Portland and how officers are held accountable here. KGW's Pat Doris took a look.
The whole world is watching! The whole world is watching!
When big protests break out in Portland, there's often a lot of interaction with police, and then complaints from some about how they were treated. But even small encounters can trigger a complaint, and they all go to the same place, the Independent Police Review. It's part of the Portland City Auditor's Office. Ross Caldwell is the director.
Portland has about 300 protest events a year, and a lot of those are very small. These are obviously on the very big end of the spectrum, but that does generate a lot of public interest, a lot of interaction between law enforcement and people in the community.
Lots of people use the city system. The IPR reviews hundreds of complaints a year from citizens and more from other police officers. For the 5 years covering 2014 through 2019, the IPR found misconduct in a total of 200 different cases. Candice Avalos is the chair of the volunteer group of citizens who review complaints.
I think that the community definitely values the work we do, and we have certain community members that tend to engage with our work a lot. And we had a retreat like a couple years ago, and they specifically mentioned like this work is important, even though it's difficult. We don't always get what we want to get done. People appreciate knowing that we're there.
Here's a deeper look into what happened last year. Citizens filed 408 complaints against officers. 155 were quickly dismissed because they had no merit, but 92 were thoroughly investigated. Another 76 got a precinct referral, meaning it did not involve misconduct, but the precinct commander's notified and can follow up with the person who complained. And 75 got supervisory investigation, which means the officer is not disciplined, but the precinct commander is notified they need more coaching, and the community member definitely wants to talk to the boss. On top of that, other officers filed complaints against their fellow cops 69 times. 50 were investigated. The most serious cases, 32 of them last year, were sent to the chief for discipline. Of those, 13 got command counseling, 9 got a letter of reprimand, 6 got 1 or 2 days suspensions without pay, 3 were suspended for more than a week without pay, and 5 resigned or retired before the final disciplinary ruling. In each of those cases, the officer's name was protected. The IPR hopes to change that and increase accountability. By the way, they also have a new spot on their website where they're asking for your input and your experiences down at the protests. In Southwest Portland, Pat Doris, KGW News.
We have gotten several messages from viewers about groups, graffiti, and other symbols spotted at the Portland demonstrations. Kristen Severance is here to verify what an acronym spotted in Portland and all over the country stands for.
Viewer Mara Grace asks, what's ACAB? I keep seeing it in shots of the graffiti at protest sites around the country. Graffiti of the acronym was sprayed on the U.S. courthouse after demonstrations in downtown Portland and on buildings and signs during protests across the country. The New York Times used a picture of an anti-fascist demonstrator from Portland holding a shield with ACAB on it in an article about Antifa. But what does it mean and where did it start? Our source for this story, Randy Blazak, a sociologist who studies policing issues and extremist issues at PSU, explains what it stands for.
ACAB has been kind of connected with the anarchist movement for a while in terms of issues around police brutality, and it's an acronym for All Cops Are Bastards, which is sort of meant at this point, I think, to reflect the perception that police are a subculture that reinforces some of the racist policing that we've seen.
The acronym reportedly started in the 1940s by strikers in the UK after run-ins with police. It was revived in the 1980s by a British punk band with the song ACAB. The term has also been used as a way to protest capitalism. After the death of George Floyd, the acronym has been seen all over social media and at demonstrations as a way to protest police.
Yeah, it's taken a life of its own in wake of the George Floyd killing. And it just becomes an easy acronym to vent your anger without looking at the complexity of what law enforcement is and what enforcing the peace is, and the commonality that protesters and police officers may have. It's just a way of simplifying things, which is a product of this sort of political division we're in right now, where everybody kind of simplifies the other side and as a handy slogan to sum up the other side without really looking at the nuances and the complexity and the commonality that we have.
The Anti-Defamation League said the acronym is used by both racist and anti-racist activists and should be carefully judged in the context in which it's used. Do you have something you want us to verify? Let us know. Email us at verify@kgw.com.
Coming up, different voices and different experiences, all pushing for an end to racism.
Cops asked me before, "Are you a citizen?" I'm like, kidding me? In Portland, I've been pulled over in Portland. The cop never said anything bad.
When we come back, More of these lived experiences, from decades of activism in Portland to those who consider it a safe haven.
And Laura, we are going to be seeing more of the same over the next couple of days. That's sunny and very pleasant conditions. We're looking at temperatures right around the mid to the upper 70s. A little bit cooler for tomorrow, but all in all, a pretty nice week of sunshine. I'll talk more about when we could be seeing some changes move in just a few minutes.